Everybody, thank you for being here today. Melissa, Allison, it gets all my text messages. You're amazing. So a couple of things real quick. Boy, last week was a complete hayride in the banking industry. You probably have heard about it now. Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, shortcut, went out of business, went completely out of business last week, the second largest bank failure in US history. And remember what we've been saying for the last year as this economy started getting wonky, housing started getting wonky. We're like, it's not the same as 2008 because all the banks were failing back then. Remember that? Remember when we said this is totally different? That was tied to a financial meltdown of the banks going out of business and the government having to bail them out. Well, that's what happened Friday, Thursday, and it happened all in about 24 hours. Not as significant, and we're not going to see the future of that have the same implications, but I want to remind you of this. That's how fragile things can be when we start looking at the amount of money we're printing and all the pieces. It's not political. This is just historical business. The government stepped in before today's market opened on purpose over the weekend and said, we're going to make every deposit guaranteed, even though it's anything over 250,000 is FDIC insured, 250 grand or less. That's something they put in decades ago to protect your assets in the bank because of bank robberies. And it goes back to the Wells Fargo stagecoach days, right? Your banking deposits are guaranteed by the government up to 250,000. Well, that bank, I think it was, I forget the percentage, but it was micro of who had 250,000 or less in the bank. It was millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions and billions of deposits from these wealthy people in the venture capital space. And all of a sudden the bank said, we're out of business and all those assets were up for grabs. And now the government stepped in, so they're going to make everybody whole and pay everybody back, which means they've got to print more money to take and pay billions of dollars in private banking debt that just failed. So no matter how you slice it, that's not good for all of us. What it did, though, is show us how volatile and really precarious the banking industry is right now because of that, right? We're seeing the ramifications of this market. And again, this is not a doom and gloom. I want you to be factual. So if you have conversations with buyers and sellers, you can have these conversations. There's another bank in New York that just failed as well over the weekend. Smaller name, I forget the name even. Russell might remember, know about it, but it didn't make the headlines, but they're going to make that bank whole as well. So do you think all the banks are going to be fine now? No, we're going to have more problems because there's fallout that happens with all this. I don't believe that we're heading down a path of financial instability in the banking industry specifically. I don't even know why and how, what went into the Silicon Valley Bank folding up, but that's one of the premier institutions for capitalism and wealth and venture, investment in the world. And they said over 50% of every new product, tech, green, startups in those spaces go through Silicon Valley Bank, 50%. But think about, those are big numbers. Yes, ma'am.
On a good note, you can tell when I want to say something.
Right, I can. I saw your face.
You could read it. On a good note with all of that, I know it is easy to freak out when you look at the banks that are collapsing, and I know there's some other ones that are on the docket that will potentially fold as well. But just to pluck out a piece of silver lining in all of that, there's a lot of talk from like the Barry Habibs and Dan Habibs of the world, the big financial gurus, that this next date that the Fed goes in to raise the interest rates will probably not raise the interest rates this next meeting that they have. I'm not saying our interest rates aren't going to go up in the mortgage world. They probably are going to, but it is a teeny tiny bit of reprieve that they likely won't raise those rates this next meeting.
Yeah, and I wish I could agree with you on this, Andrea. I really do.
Okay if we disagree.
So it's okay. So I believe that you're probably accurate on the next meeting because they need to stabilize everybody's mentally This is not a doom and gloom. This is factual, right? Signature Bank's the other one that went out of business. Thank you, Russell. Within days. And I believe there'll be a few that follow, but that's not a banking meltdown. That's just, it's the sign of the times, interest rates and everything that's going on in the world. I look at it as opportunity. Every time something like this happens, guess what? B of A, Wells Fargo, Chase, somebody's going to buy Silicon Valley Bank for pennies on the dollar and not have any liability, because the government's going to absorb all the liability, right? Through this. That's what's going to happen. That's how these Lehman Brothers and things, that's how it transformed the wealth movement. I just want you to be aware of it because it's factual. People are going to talk about it. And more importantly, you want to, now that you know, you want to look into it a little bit so you have the facts to have hard factual conversations in. I don't want you spinning the negative. That's not what this is meant to do. I don't have a crystal ball. Neither does Andrea. I want hers to be right. I believe that we're going to see interest rates increase. The feds have been very determined and resolute about raising them until we stop inflation. We're not even close to the 2% mark they want to see. So I believe we're going to see rates get into about the 8% range and maybe beyond if they can't get in front of it.
Just to clarify, I don't disagree with you, Randy. That was my only point, was that I don't think they will raise them just at this next meeting. I think they're going up. I just don't think they're raising them at the next meeting.
I think that may be true. I think they're going to take a little incremental increase again. I think they're probably going to do half basis points. And again, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just my own one vote prediction, right? I think they got to continue the path to get in front of them. If they do take a back seat right now and slow it down a little bit, it's because either the job reports and things come out better than they thought, or they're just trying to calm the unsecurity that is in the financial area.
Well, it's kind of a weird pickle to be in, because if they don't raise the basis points, then they're not fighting the inflation. But if they do raise the basis points, then they're kind of continuing to aggravate the banking issue right now. So they're kind of in a no-win situation, I feel like.
It is a no-win situation. And again, the only thing propping up the real estate market, and we've seen brisk real estate sales here in springtime, after Valentine's Day, basically. We've seen that brisk across the nation, most of the areas that I coach in. And it's really inventory is the one factor. Low inventory is the one factor that is really holding this all together. And inventory started to increase in some areas, which again, what's going to happen is, regardless what you call it at the end of this rainbow, right? Recession or slowdown or whatever, they're going to have to aggressively reduce rates to stimulate the economy, right? So this is the pendulum that swings. What I want you to know is now is the absolute best time to gain market share, to increase the client content or amount of clients you have in your sphere of influence and database. Because when things shift, like Brent Gove and I were talking the other day, we're building like crazy. And soon as this thing turns, man, it's going to be a rocket ship straight up. Because the amount of people looking at EXP, looking at this company, we're still, debt-free. We're still a lot of cash reserves in the bank. All these things are putting us in a position to do very, very well on the exit of this. I was optimistic that the exits sooner maybe than it is later, maybe even by the end of this year. I think it could stretch a little further than that, just with what's going on. I believe that. I was also, basically saying I didn't think the foreclosure and short sale market was going to be anything like we saw before. If anything is somewhat non-existent, I believe that we have more indicators that market is going to gain traction over time. So again, not meant to be a scare tactic. And I love Andrea's forever optimism. I'm the most optimistic guy on the planet, in my mind, at least. But I'm also a realist, and I also want to look at opportunities, right? When there's something big going on, it creates opportunities somewhere else. And so if you have the information, you could think 2 or 3 steps ahead of what may come next. It may be foreclosures and short sales, and Russ is an expert in this area. It may be other areas that we may be able to get in front of as the indicators start pointing towards that, right? And I can't see what you're sharing, Russell, but I'm sure it's good because Russell's a good guy.
I just got back from the NADP meeting, National Association of Default Professionals. I sit on one of the boards for NADP.
Oh, please let us know what's going on then.
Yeah, so what the chief economist said that was there is that, and you can see it from the first chart that I just produced, that they did finally get stuff to start coming down. What's interesting though, if you look at the cumulative of both home ownership and rentals, we've had a period of time where landlords nationally were not allowed to touch their rent rates because of COVID, right? And then couldn't kick anybody out either. So now that COVID is starting to lighten up in every county except for Los Angeles. And by the way, if you know somebody that's got a problem with their mortgage, all they got to say is that they're still having problems with COVID, and the banks will still modify their loans.
No kidding.
Today. Yep, absolutely today.
That's worth $1 million right there, that information.
Worth $1 million. Yeah. However, they did start to actually get inflation to come down. You can see that first chart, it's headed the right direction. So the chief economist actually believes that by end of year, we may, as long as this trend continues, right, ceteris paribus, that we may actually see rates start to, lighten up a little bit, right? We're going from 3/4 last year to a quarter, halves and quarters this year, and they feel like they're getting a handle on it. Food's still the worst, right? So what people are eating or whatever. And then if you look at the lines in the chart, the lines, not the these, but the actual bar lines, that's the housing. And when I say shelter, it includes both rentals and homes, and it just continues to climb. You're not going to see, at least to this economist, that pricing on housing, shelter come down in an inflationary period, especially when you're coming off an anomaly where landlords were not able to raise any of their rents for a number of years, nor were they allowed to kick anybody out. So you're starting to see that the apartment complexes, condo complexes, they're starting to climb. Even though it's counterintuitive of cap rates, they're starting to be able to raise rents again, which drives the value of those up, right? So overall, shelter is starting to come down. And then when it comes to foreclosures and then REOs, which is what we care about and I care about, they're becoming much more systematic, where any of us that are in the default industry are going to want to go after pre-foreclosures and try to help. As a matter of fact, if somebody wants to become a billionaire and they're way smarter than me, figure out a way to service clients before they get all the way through the foreclosure process. All of the banks, all of the funds, all of the servicers are dying for somebody to do that. And if a property gets foreclosed upon now, almost all the legislation in the country is trying to put those properties in nonprofits, potentially current owner occupants, tenants, anything to keep it away from the big bad investor, right? Or from the bank actually making a huge profit on that property. So they're becoming much more systematized about having a plan once the property gets into that foreclosure process on A, keeping people in there, and then B, if they can't keep them in there, try to go to a nonprofit, try to go into an owner occupant to try to keep it out of investors' hands. So it was a really interesting conference.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great takeaway and little snapshot of it. Thank you, Russell, for that. Again, education, knowledge is power. Think about this. Did you take a picture of those chat graphs yet? Take a picture of those, print them out, put them in your presentations, buyer and seller, have educated conversations with them, because they're looking for you to be the educated one in the relationship, right? And anything you could do can be a predicator of what's coming up in the future. If you have some of this data you could talk about, it gives you an upper hand over some of the other agents just saying, it's a good time to sell. It's a good time to buy, right? It's all about this. And that's why Russell continues to go to these events and keep learning, keep, pouring into this. Listen, people need to buy and people need to sell, period, end of story. Did you hear me? People need to buy, people need to sell. The rates could be 20% and we will sell houses. The rates could be 2% and people will not buy houses. We've proven that historically, right? Real rates were in the 18.5% range in the 80s, and they were at 2.25 in the last 12 months. January of 2022, I refinanced for 2.25% lifetime. And I'm one of those people that can't sell now, right? There's a lot of I read something as many as 40% of the properties are tied up because of rates, meaning that the rates are so low, people don't want to sell yet. What are they going to buy at 7 or 7.5%? All this means to you is it's just timing. It's just timing, having enough conversations, having enough educated moments with buyers and sellers and investors and renters and tenants, right? It's all about education. That's what I want to lead with in this, not And you didn't call me this, Andrea. I'm not saying that, not doom and gloom. It's true though. I mean, when I read that news about SVB Bank, it affected me for about an hour. I was like, holy crap, are we going to go through this again? And mentally, that's human nature, right? But the reality is that continued amount of education goes, okay, this makes sense. This puzzle fits in there. This makes sense. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. At the end of the day, we can't control that unless you run for Congress, right? But what we can control is what's between the 6 inches between our ears and how we perfect our language and skill set with our buyers and sellers and investors and renters and tenants and so on, right? That's what's important. That's what I get out of this, okay? Rates, 6.59% right now as we talk nationally. I do believe that, like we just talked, I think we'll continue to see some fluctuation. If we can get the inflation coming down even a whisker, they'll stop raising rates. If we can get jobs data to be stable, I think they stop raising rates. They're just trying to get in front of this. And I think we are going to see equally rates coming down fast when it does happen. I think they'll get in front and be really quite aggressive with the rates coming back down to continue to stimulate. But with that, I'd like to shift gears, come over to Andrea and talk about the numbers for the week. The meat and potatoes of our team call is making sure, again, it's going to sound like accountability, but it's really us wanting you to win. If we're not tracking your numbers, and I see a lot of heads nodding, thank you for that. If we're not tracking our numbers, if we don't know the target and the goal, how can we possibly achieve them, right? And most of the time, these are your numbers that you've established, not ours. I don't shit on you. I don't go, Hosley, you should be calling 72 people a week that, you know, what's going on? It's 12 o'clock. What are you doing? It's, you're going to be going, hey, this is Halsey. I want to do 72 conversations this week. We're like, all right, girl, go. You said it. We're on you. We're doing this, right? That's where we want to come from. So Andrea, you should be able to share your screen and let's pull up that sheet, please.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I actually jumped in here while you guys were talking and went ahead and put who was present and who was absent here. So you guys
Beautiful.
didn't have to holler at me. And this is something we talked about 2 weeks ago. We gave you guys forewarning, heads up that we were going to be bringing this sheet into the meetings. Because I think it's a driving factor to see, see what other people are doing and to know if you're living up to your full potential, and if you're hitting things or not. If you don't have, like Randy said, if you don't have a target, how are you just winging it? You're just winging
guaranteed to hit it.
Mm-hmm. And when you wing it, you don't know if you're hitting it or not hitting it. You don't know if you're a mile off or if you're an inch off. So knowing your numbers in this industry, so important. You guys are all business owners now, on a team, individual agent, doesn't matter. You guys should all be thinking like business owners, and business owners know numbers. It's that simple. So I'm going to hold off on the accountability partner piece because I kind of want to implement little bits of this at a time to give you guys a chance to acclimate to what we're doing. The call 2 weeks ago, we told you this was coming. The call today, we're actually, we're implementing it, letting you get a good look at it, and reporting on things. So to the best of your ability, we're going to run through this today. And so when I ask you these numbers, these are for last week. So if you can give me your numbers for last week. Now, some of you may not know them because you may not remember that we were doing this today, and that's okay. This first time can always be a little rough around the edges, but now you know. And so the calls and the dials, this is for last week. Conversations for last week. Appointments set for last week. So everything is for last week. Yeah. So anybody want to jump in here?
Andrea, real quick, I want to make sure that if you're on this call and we're calling you out, you're the inner circle. The ones that aren't on the call are not reporting the numbers. It could look like you're being penalized because you're on the call. It's opposite. Right? You're getting our attention and help achieving what you want to achieve. By missing the call, it's really having a negative effect. So number one, thank you for being here and thanks for being honest with what we're going to be doing here. And the ones that are absent are going to get the wrath of Randy and Andrea, right? They don't want that. So, okay, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, you're cracking me up, Randy. I love it. All right. So anybody want to just jump in here and give me numbers, or do you just want me to start at the top and go on through? Oh, Allison's got her hand raised. I
Well, I
love
have
that.
a question and then I'm happy to go.
Okay,
What qualifies a conversation?
fantastic. You want to take it, Randy?
I'm happy to. Hello, that's a conversation. So if you get somebody live, that's a conversation to me. To layer on something to that, it's you having a focused real estate based conversation with them. If you go, hey, this is Allison. How are you doing? How are the kids? Oh my God, things are so good. I heard you got a new Jag. Oh, what color is it? It's purple. Anyway, have a great day. You did an amazing job as a friend, but you failed as a realtor. So what I think a good measurable conversation is one that you have any conversation around buying, selling, investing, renting in real estate, right? It could be gentle. It could be, hey, Allison, by the way, just before we go, do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell that I might be able to help, right? Or it might be, hey, Allison, it's Randy Byrd. Listen, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on what's going on in the market. Rates are doing this. You heard about the banking situation. We don't think that's going to affect any of the local and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all that stuff. But I wanted you to know about it. Is there anything I could do to help you? That's a real estate conversation, right?
Yeah.
So it could take many forms, but what you don't want to do is be a secret agent, get off the phone and go, oh, I forgot to tell them where I even work at, right? So measurement to me, conversation is a real estate related conversation. Here's one more example. Like I do, if I call them every 2 weeks, twice a month, the first one's personal and the other one's business. So it may be Allison, Randy Byrd, personal call. Just want to check on you, the family, the kids. How was the vacation? You guys went to Yosemite? Awesome. Anyway, you guys have a great day. It's on purpose meant to be personal. I would leave that out of the conversations. You could count it. It's up to you. But if you truly want to measure your key performance indicators, your KPIs, you want business related conversations. Because mathematically, I will tell you, every 40 of those with moderate skills will equal one closed transaction in the next year. That's math. Math is indisputable. If you're brand new, you might have a 75 or an 80 to 1. And somebody that's incredibly gifted and skill set of language, Andrea Russell, it could be as low as 18 to 1 we've seen. All right, so 40 to 1 is kind of the number. That's why we talk work conversations. Better? Awesome.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go. Who wants to give me some numbers?
Anybody have numbers?
Who can tell me how many people they
Anybody
talked to
wish
last
they
week?
had numbers?
I
I'll
can
go.
give you, yeah, I can give you some.
Awesome, let's go. I think that's Melissa. I can't see all you guys, so
It's Melissa.
perfect.
I had 5 good conversations throughout the week with different people in different phases of the process.
Okay.
And my screen is super small, so I'm trying to read your.
How many calls or dials did you have?
My goal was 20 a day, and I did that for 4 days. So
So you did 80?
80. Yep. Sorry,
Okay,
I'm having to take
80.
out my math.
80 and 5 conversations?
But I didn't necessarily talk to everybody. A lot of them, like through the Boomtown, I don't get through to people.
Okay, the
So-
reason I asked is because if I know the math, I can help you, right?
Yeah.
So if you did
Um,
80 dials and only 5 conversations, you called at midnight, or there was a message that you didn't leave, or there's some opportunities for you to increase those numbers, in my opinion,
Oh, definitely.
right? So it's all about growing you, not about calling you out. I love the dialogue. What's really cool about numbers is, say, for instance, you have 80 dials and you talk to 60 people and have no appointments. I know where we could work on your skill set. If you have 80 dials and only 5 people pick up, it might be the database, right? So that's what this is all for.
That's been my struggle, is I spend time in the database calling all my leads and following through, and there's not a lot of pickup. And then I text them and then I email them and then I follow up. And so yeah.
And by the way, a contact is also a text message, a DM. Those are related to contacts. You're having a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Any buyer appointments or buyer appointments set or
I don't
held?
have anything set. I have stuff that I'm following up on this week.
Okay, awesome. Good job. Anybody else want to talk about their numbers?
I have a listing appointment set to go over tomorrow. I'm trying to read what are your
Yeah,
checklists?
perfect. We'll put that down.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brave souls.
I'll go.
Was that Kenny?
It is. How you doing?
Good.
Kenny. How you doing, brother?
Oh, not too bad. Last week, not my strongest week of lead gen, 27 dials. I had 11 conversations. Battled a little illness late in the week, so that kind of got me off my game a little bit, but yeah, that was it.
Any appointments set? Buyer listing?
I rebooked a listing appointment.
Okay. Awesome. I could hear it in your voice, brother. Hope you feel better.
Appreciate it. It's getting better.
Awesome.
I love it. I love hearing you guys talk about your numbers, good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter. I just love hearing you talk about them, because when you know what you're doing, when you have that target, and when you have the ability to see how far on or off track you are, it's a very eye-opening experience for you guys. So this is cool. I love having you guys put these in here. This is not a, I think, just to reiterate kind of what Randy was saying, this is not a judgment call, right?
Mhm.
This is a awareness call. This is an encouragement call, right? To be able to get in here and create that synergy around what everybody's doing is so important. So
It is. And if you're not on our team, we could take your name off. We don't have to help hold you accountable or have accountability or have any of this. This is all just beneficial for you. And if you want to participate, you don't have to be on our team as well. We want to make this about growing, because if you could see what other people are doing, and there'll be people that stand out, both good and bad. It's okay. It's all about growth, and it's all about understanding what's possible.
Andrew, did you share this document with us like via Google Drive or something? Because I didn't see it. And what I would like to do, if you don't mind, I'll go update each day. I know that
Yeah.
anybody that's in Randy's and Don's organization, we do dial for dollars every day, 10 to 12 Pacific. And if you're not in the Pacific and you're in some other time zone, Jackie does them every day in Mountain, where we have somebody in each time zone. So we can, do the calls, and then you can go and update right afterwards. I'll start doing that. Thank you for sharing it with me.
yeah, I'll get it shared out to everybody else too, but I got it shared to you just now.
Yeah, thank you. And we go in and we hold each other accountable. We do, who you're going to call, what are you going to say every day of the week. And we're almost all in there. Everybody that comes to that call every day is super busy. Jackie was doing 0 production when she came over. She has 6 properties in escrow. I currently have 10 listings. As of today, we'll have 5 properties in escrow. So calling works. I apologize. You did ask me to do this 2 weeks ago, and I didn't track. I track daily and send over to Megan, but I did a crappy job here. So I will make sure
Good
I go
job,
in
brother.
each day.
Hey, all good, Russell. This is anytime you first start something, right? It takes a minute to build that habit. So, and get in the swing of doing it. So all good.
And I appreciate you being a leader and stepping up, Russell.
I love it.
You know,
Perfect. So Russell will get in there and
I-
do his own numbers.
I believe we're going to inspire people as we progress with this, and understand that we're all human. It's really about being the best version of yourself you could be. You're in real estate already, right? What you do on a daily basis is your choice, independent contractor and all that. Like I said, this is about you stepping into the uncomfortable area, maybe the area that scares you, the shadows, I call them, because they're only shadows when you stand back away from it. As soon as you walk into it, the shadow disappears, right? And so that's what this is about, is walking into the things that create fear or, fear of rejection, whatever it may be. Very cool. Anybody else have anything they want to add before I let you guys go and get on to your other team call?
When you said fear of rejection, so my morning inspirational quote that gets texted to me to this morning, it was, the spirit of fear does not release you just because you want it to. It takes walking in courage.
No way. That gave me goosebumps.
So when you said that, I was like, oh wait, hold on.
Sarah, and I didn't get that this morning, by the way.
No,
So
it's from another coach that, like just a life coach that I've been friends with for years, and I'm on her
I
group
love it.
texting. And that was the text this morning was about the spirit
I
of
heard
fear.
that from Megan Kelly at GrowthCon EX or in Las Vegas with Grant Cardone. And she said that about 10 years ago, she was just living in this place of like, you know, I'm not good enough and I'm in a man's world and all this stuff. She was a Fox News contributor. And then she changed her mindset. And she said she just literally recognized that every time she was in a place of fear or otherwise, it was her resisting rejection or fear of acceptance or screwing up or what social media was going to say. And she said, every time I recognized that, I walked straight into the fear and the shadow just disappeared. And I was like, wow, that's powerful. And then she went on to share her stories, how she interviewed, you name it, 2 Russian presidents, all these major people. She did one-on-one interviews because she just walked into what she looked at as a reserved place because of fear or because of, judgment. And as soon as she did that, her life changed. And now she's incredibly successful, number 1 business podcast in the world and all these other things that she's acquired. And she says still happens today. A new level is a new fear. A new level is a new unknown. And so she keeps embracing that and walking in to these new unknowns, the shadows, the dark, the shadows, I call them. And then all of a sudden light is shined on those and things change. So I just really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for staying a couple of minutes late, but walk into your shadows, identify what your shadow is and walk into it. Some people, it's fear of the phones. It feels like an 800-pound anvil because of fear of rejection. That's what it is. Sorry. That's all it is. If you had no rejection, if I told you, call everybody you know, and if you get a hold of them today, I'm going to give you 25 grand per person. And by the way, you're going to get rewarded in some way, but it's really about them. Your fingers would be bleeding by the end of the day. What's the difference between that and saying you could have a $10,000 or $20,000 commission over here by doing the same exact activity, right? It's because one, you're giving, there's no sense of rejection or fear or all that other stuff over here. Here, you're giving, right? So if they go, hey, you're just calling me, I don't have time for you today. You're going to go, stop. You don't understand. I have this to give you, right? That is the difference between our emotional boundaries of contribution and fear or rejection, right? It's all in the words. It's all between here. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Have a great Monday. I'll see you next week, but thanks for being here. And thanks, Andrea and Russ for contributing and Allison for getting my texts.
Good to see you guys. Bye, Kenny. Bye, Russell.
Have a great day, everybody. I appreciate
Thanks,
you
Sonia.
all. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
All right,
contribution.
thank you. Thank
See you now. Bye for now.